to our new enhancements that we have done to our UI, and then also walk you through some of the new enhancements that we have got in cloud management. The first few slides are merely like what I have talked before in terms of why cloud management, how is it actually beneficial to our customers, and what are some of the things that we stand by with respect to our vision, right? So this is not just a mere configuration management platform. We actually strive to help the experience, the operational or the user experience of the customer by simplifying the workflows and giving them feedback on like whether the policies or like some of the configurations that you've created, are they compliant to the best practices or not? So the vision of the product is helping customers manage and operationalize big and complex networks in as easier way as possible by giving them more feedback on the configurations that they created, maintaining a good security, helping them maintaining a good security posture and stuff. So quickly, just to kind of actually go through, I have just a few topics that I want to go through. Some of these changes that we are doing, we are keeping in some of the newer enhancements. We are actually looking towards bringing in some newer enhancements in the future to the cloud management, Prisma Access cloud management product itself. So keeping that in mind, like we have made some changes. So yes, the previous sessions are all online. I think it was done last year. There has been a bunch of Prisma Access cloud management sessions online that you can actually go refer to. And those sessions are recorded and posted. I think in one of the earlier slides, Wendy shared where these sessions are being recorded and posted. You can search for Prisma Access Cloud Management, and then you can actually get to all the sessions which were previously recorded. This was just to answer a question which was posted right now. So quickly, in terms of like what are the changes which are coming in, people who are familiar with Prisma Access Cloud Management, on the left navigation, like obviously we had the manage tile where all the configurations, like in terms of the onboarding of let's say MU, R, and SE configurations were there, and then also the security policies were there. So we have made some slight changes where under the manage, still the security configurations, they stay here. We have actually moved the operations to a separate pane, and then also there is an introduction of a new tile called settings. This is where the Prisma Access setup, that means that onboarding of all the users and stuff, or onboarding of all the remote networks, users with respect to global protects or explicit proxy, and then service connections, all these things come into picture. There is another new section called access control. So we will get to access control later, what access control is, specifically want to talk about what scope management is, right? So this is just actually just taking this section, taking the service setup section, and then we are actually putting it under a different main section called settings. That's pretty much that we are doing, but otherwise all the UI with respect to setting up the global protect, remote networks, service connections, they're not changing. They pretty much remain the same. From the new concepts, new things that we are introducing in cloud management is obviously you would have seen where you can go and then switch scopes. Like for example, when you go to security policy, you can actually switch the scope, saying that I want to look at security policy for shared or let's say, security policies which are specifically defined for remote networks, explicit proxy, global protect, right? So there is a change how the scopes are being switched. So it's on the top right now, where you can see it's a configuration scope, specifically calls out this is configuration scope. There is no shared anymore. We renamed the shared as Prisma Access. So for the whole Prisma Access, essentially, right, just trying to be more logical in terms of like representing things, right? And then under the scope, now you can see folders and snippets, right? So the idea here is make the configuration more granular and then more flexible, right? The concept, we are introducing the concept of folders. This is not something new. Like the in Prisma Access is pretty standard. Folders are nothing but a group of firewalls where you want to apply a common set of policies and stuff, right? So they're already grouped in Prisma Access as Global Protect, explicit proxy, remote networks, nodes, and the Prisma Access backend, right? So the folders are already there and created. Something new that we actually brought in is snippets. It's still in the preview. We'll open it up in next 2 or 3 months, but we want our customers to get a hang of it. The idea, sorry, the idea with snippet is think of snippet as like a template of configuration, right? Where you can actually go define a specific configuration, right? So maybe web security is not, I'll just pick up optional default, right? So you can actually go define a particular set of security policies and stuff. And then what you can do is you can take that snippet and then you can associate with any of the folders. So you don't have to actually go rewrite the policies. It's just more of a template-based thing. It's pretty flexible in terms of writing a configuration policy or a set of security rules once, and then you can actually take that and then you can associate to any place that you want, right? So this becomes particularly useful when obviously you don't have to follow the hierarchy where like you write some policies at the shared level, it gets inherited to all the childs, but you want the policies only on certain childs. Then what you do is you can actually use snippets to easily do that. You can actually take a snippet and then you can associate it to multiple folders and stuff, right? So like I said, snippets are actually more in the preview phase right now, but slowly in the next 2 months or so, we'll actually start opening it up, and users can actually, or admins can actually make use of this feature in terms of associating the configurations and snippets to a particular folder or to a particular Prisma Access scope, right? So that was those were the two things that I kind of wanted to just quickly walk through. I think people who are used to using Prisma Access with the current changes, they would see, hey, I mean, where did my service setup go? And then what are all these new scopes in terms of what are snippets, what are folders and stuff? Like I said, I mean, in summary, folders are nothing new. We just it's just a collection of same types of nodes, or like if you want to apply the same policy to a particular set of nodes in the backend, right? You would actually bring them, aggregate them into a single folder. And snippets is nothing but a collection of configurations that you can actually bundle it as a template, and then you can apply it to certain folder. These are some of the new things that we actually gotten. So in terms of the push itself, right? When you're pushing the config to a particular to the Prisma Access backend, this is actually more of a push and a commit, right? So this is actually, maybe I don't have the read-write access to this, so it could be the reason. The idea here is you pick particular folders, like Prisma Access particular scopes, and then you can push the configuration to only to those. So we obviously giving a new set of UI in terms of actually trying to look at trying to actually be more forward looking when we bring in more enhancements and stuff. So no changes here. The policy optimizer settings have been actually moved under the operations as well. So people are familiar with what is policy optimizer. Policy optimizer is one of the tools that we give where we monitor, we help customers monitor the traffic going through a particular security policy, and then we suggest is the security policy too broad right now? Can you actually make the security rule more specific by splitting it into more security policies, and then be more specific, right? By depending on how the traffic is actually, what kind of traffic is being, depending on types of traffic that are actually allowed by the security policy. So those are some of the UI changes that you would see. Obviously, on the overview page itself, like if we go back to Prisma Access, on the overview page itself, nothing has changed. There is a widget for configuration snippets for you to kind of look at what are the different configuration snippets which are in place. Again, given this is in preview, this is not going to be much of a use or a difference right now. And another important enhancements that we got to the Prisma Access Cloud Management is the custom RBAC itself. So the idea with custom RBAC is obviously people who are familiar with the product, you would know that we supported only a set of predefined roles. So now what we have is you can define custom roles. That means that you can add a custom role, and then you can actually, depending on the left navigation menus, what you can do is you can actually go and then say that for those resources, what kind of permissions that you want to give. Is it read, write, read only, or no access? These are the three permissions which are available. Right, read write means obviously you have read write to that particular resource. Read only means you have read only to that particular resource, right? But the resource is still shown, right? I mean, that configuration element is still shown. No access means obviously it's not even shown in the UI, right? The user doesn't have access to that element, and then it's not even shown in the UI, right? So you can go and then select saying that what kind of resources that you want to actually what kind of permissions you want to give to different types of configuration elements of the resources. And then once that is done, what you do is you go to access management, and obviously the users which are there, I'm going to just pick a user here. And then you can say that I want to assign, let's say for a particular app, like Prisma Access app, right? I want to assign, you saw there was a read write and then read only user role, right? I want to actually assign a read only custom role. So all the permission sets which are there, which were defined under the custom role, will be applied to that user. Now, now the question is, when read only, the custom role read only means the user has read only to all the configuration elements, right? That's how it's been defined here as an example. So as a user here, vbalasubra@palotest.com. So for example, once the permissions are assigned to me, I go and then access the configuration elements, right? When I log in, then I have read-only access to all the security policies and spyware, all the configuration elements, right? But there is a requirement where, hey, this user, this particular admin, vbalasubra@palotest.com, needs to have read-write access to only explicit proxy security policies and objects and stuff, but read-only access to all the things. Like, how do you control that, right? So that's where we have the scope management coming into perspective. The idea with scope management is you define a scope. Like I'll create a scope. Like going back to the same example, I'll pick up explicit proxy, right? I'm going to just name the scope as explicit proxy, right? So I pick up explicit proxy, and what I do is I go and then say that, hey, the user V Balasubra test, which I was actually referring to. So here is the one, right? I'll give read-write access. That means that, let's say, super user access, right? For that user, only for the explicit proxy object. That means that now what happens is the user has read-only access to all the other configuration elements other than explicit proxy. So the idea with scope management is the scopes which are inside the Prisma Access app, right? For different scopes, like today the options that you have under scope is folders and snippets, right? So you can say that I want to actually give a different set of permissions for the scope objects which are there within the Prisma Access app. So it gives you more granularity in terms of saying that, hey, there is an admin who's managing, let's say, a particular snippet. Like the snippet could belong to a particular project, or there is an admin who's managing security policy rules only for the mobile users or the global protect, right? Then you can actually give read-write access to only those security policies, as opposed to the whole configuration policies and stuff itself, right? So that's where the granularity with respect to the RBACs comes into perspective. So these are some of the new product related enhancements that we actually came up with in Cloud Managed Prisma Access, right? This is something actually native to the cloud management, Prisma Access cloud management itself. So apart from these native features and stuff, obviously we are actually working on supporting all the Prisma Access related features which are developed on the Prisma Access side. Like we are supporting it on the cloud management itself. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, where there was a lot of interest, is obviously on the mobile user or the global protect side of the house, there is something called multi-portal. So this was released. The idea with multi-portal is obviously with global protect. Most of you who have worked with global protect, you know that there is a single portal in place, right? With multi-portal, it enables two portals, right? This is mostly, the use case is mostly for customers who have their users on, like, let's say, some kind of old authentication, or some kind of old authentication service like Radius or something, and then they want to actually migrate their users to a newer authentication mechanisms like SAML, or let's say CIE authenticate, or they want to use CIE and they want to actually move their users to CIE and stuff, right? So in order to do that, what they can do is they can actually make use of multi-portal. The gateways are shared between the portals. Once you enable multi-portal, so what happens is every portal, like if you go back, every portal, they have their own authentications, right? So here you can define authentication for portal 1, which is obviously on port 443, and then portal 2, which is on 8443. Like in the previous screen, you saw that once I enabled multi-portal, it actually showed two different host names, just only the port numbers were different, right? So the idea how it works is how they share different gateways. There is something like, there is a concept called authentication cookie. So irrespective of whether the authentication happened on portal 1 or portal 2, an authentication cookie is generated, and then that cookie is shared at the gateway. So the gateway uses that cookie in order to authenticate the user once the user connects to the gateway after it gets information, after it authenticates with the portal and gets the information from portal. So these are pretty much like the new enhancements and stuff that I wanted to cover. On the cloud management side, obviously, we are working on bringing in a lot of other enhancements as well. Even in terms of upgrades and stuff, like improved, or we have actually worked on enhancing our infrastructure, where we are actually brought down the upgrade times from let's say like before we would take almost like 2 to 3 hours windows to upgrade during every release and stuff. So we actually brought it down to less than 15-20 minutes for a customer. And also we are moving towards more of a batch upgrade model, where now we are actually upgrading US customers, EU customers at non-business times and stuff, like all like in a batch upgrade. So all these are the enhancements which are actually coming into which are already there in cloud management. On the upgrade side, like we are planning to improve the user experience over the next couple of releases to make sure that we communicate, we have a communication mechanism like properly to the customer, saying that what time their upgrade happens. We do communicate it today, but given like it's gone down from 2 to 3 hours to just less than a few minutes, we won't actually change our communication mechanisms accordingly as well. So that's going to happen. That's going to happen in the next couple of